под аккомпанемент этой прекрасной музыки мы врываемся в мир. Уже вроде все пошло, так. Это самое время открыть. Думаю, что к нам много кто сегодня придет. Вообще кто-то прибежит. Поэтому будем больше сидеть и чилить. А кто захочет, тот придет.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace.
Она, конечно, очень экстравагантная. Да, точно, тут книжка была.
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
Блин, жаль, некоторые текстурки
Sven
мальноваты,
gave
а
Sam an
они
old
тексты
camera he'd
такие.
refurbished. He never put it down.
Так, там, кто у нас? Здорово, привет, Егор. Там побольше и поближе. Ну давай вот так. Или, ну, сорян, как бы.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin.
Брат-близнец дедушки Сэма. Кей или Волтер, или Кельвин, кто из них? По дате, кстати, Кельвин.
And that he never talked about him.
Командный центр. Форт Кельвин, да, действительно. И вроде норм. Хорошо. Тема космоса прям. Ух. Нифига себе шкафчик. Если я пока не хочу сюда, подожди. Не собирался, мне было просто интересно. И что у нас в командном центре, если тут что-то
I guess
есть?
my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Кельвин. 50-61. Он в 11 лет умер. Его дневник.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom, and he did. At Barbara's funeral, he swore we'd never be afraid again, and he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready!
Coming! But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it.
Так, как затормозить-то теперь? А то я раскачался. Качели, остановись. Ни камерой вращать не могу, ничего. Я опять ее раскачиваю. Дождаться, пока совсем остановится. Делаем правой кнопкой мыши, я тоже ногами двигаю. Ну нет, не то все. Ей Q это тоже нога. Понятно. Кстати, может камерой повращать-то хоть, ну? Все, вообще убрал руки от клавы мыши, взял в руки чашку чая, пусть останавливается. Что-то это затянулось. Хорошо как. Ну, вроде не хочет останавливаться, значит, видимо, надо еще больше раскачиваться.
I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that.
I'm not gonna tell you again.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up. Then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Вот оно что.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing. After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
Родила веревка. С Сэмом.
Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Больше никогда не входил в это. Тут ничего не осталось сказать. Ползти туда.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Шорткат какой-то. Это Барбара, видимо. Комната Барбары. Да.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Это залезть обратно. Потому что там что-то открыть еще можно. Окей. Маски.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Барбара. Сколько свечек-то? Раз, два, три, четыре. 15. Проверяем. Да, 16. Все сходится. Она умерла либо в свой день рождения, либо где-то недалеко от этого. Просто.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box.
Блин, они комикс интерактивный
As she
сделали.
found the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent. She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
Реально как будто фильм ужасов.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
Так. Яркая кровь. Это Шет, это ее отец. Пилила и рука попала.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Oh.
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Лестница мало пойти. Еще фильтр наложили, чтобы все комиксом выглядело. Шейдинговый. Так, а чё? Ничего не открывается. Прям открыто и...
Walter, are you there? Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing.
Музыка очень знакомая из этой, из пилы.
He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully.
По крайней мере, как будто из пилы. О, это комната Молли.
She thought about abandoning Walter, but just couldn't do it. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges grow. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
Музыка реально из пилы. Где комната Уолтера? Где сам Уолтер? Ну, немножко замиксованная, чтобы, я так понимаю, по авторским правам не получить.
The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard. But that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Нужен кот с барабана в этот момент.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
Что с ней на самом деле случилось? Неужели все-таки Рик? Да, Бадумц, точняк. Неужели все-таки Рик ее убил? Ну за что, непонятно. Мотив какой-то у него ж должен был быть. Почему ухо отрезано? Непонятно, короче, ничего не понятно. Я больше тут нет, надо выползать через этот.
It's funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key. I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
Видимо, к шкатулке перейти.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Так, в этой комнате мы были, в этой были. А это та самая розовая ванна, насколько... Нет. В любом случае, на первый этаж. Шкатулка. Бильярд. Можно в бильярд сыграть? Нельзя, жаль. Свен. Кто есть Свен? Барбара. Ага, вот Свен. Тоже вот эта же ветка. Это ачивку давали. За что? За бильярд? Он не интерактивный. И с ним взаимодействовать.
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
Вырезала из дерева. Гнома. Похоже, кстати, на гномов из рисовки Диснея, Белоснежки, которые были. Это та самая циркулярка.
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
А, ну. Эрден.
I thought maybe she was hiding presents.
Давайте посмотрим, какие там подарки прячутся.
It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that. I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone.
Это звуки
She
генератора
said after
какого-то.
Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Уолтер, то есть он после смерти Барбары заперся тут. Можно за окошко готово, я так понимаю. Угу. Картина. Ну, давай, товарищ Уолтер. Другая ветка. Второй 2005. Довольно долго прожил.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week.
Это 8. О, дальше крутить не
But
хочешь.
after a few days, I settled into a routine.
Надо мышку, короче, крутить. Забавно.
That's what kept me sane.
Не очень удобно, но прикольно.
Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow.
76.
But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything.
Что, опять что ли крутить?
Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just
В 2005 в 2005
Stop.
умер. По
whatever
рукам
that
видно,
thing
что он
was,
старый.
it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave. Well, I still can.
Давай выбираться, пока можем.
I know it's out there, somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara
Убила Барбару.
and Molly
Да, он про проклятие в целом.
and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know
Боже,
I'm ready for it.
какая отсылочка.
I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left. Or a month. Or a single week.
Даже вынесено, хоть Картер
I'd be
начинается
happy
так же.
with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
А Сэма где-то пропустил. Я про него ничего.
I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me.
Ну, кстати, игра, где пригодились бы адаптивные курки от DualSense. Потому что ты очень много взаимодействуешь со всякими штуками,
Maybe she
и
was afraid I
анимации
ended up like
разные.
Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe 2, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
Уолтер. Памятный мемориал. Забавно, что на нем кепка, как у заключенных. Квест 220.
I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of.
А что, топиться собирается? Не-не-не, подруг, пойдем.
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the
Далеко не
people
все
in these
истории.
stories believed them, for what that's worth. you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible. I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
За семья, если кладбище она закладывает раньше, чем начинает жить, я понял. Хорошо. А вот кладбище.
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Кладбище домашних животных.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Барбаровщина. Болтер. Эдди. Бля. Елен.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us.
Ливис и Санджей. Подожди. У него не та фамилия. Санджей Кумар. Его даже нет. Подожди. Левис, да? Вот он. Левис. Это я за эту девочку играю.
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself.
Давай узнавать, что случилось с остальными.
But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
На 22 неделе беременности, ничего себе. Подробности вскрываются. Это сколько получается? О, Господи. 5,5 месяц? 5 точно. Нет? Здесь нельзя? Можно.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
У него бабуля неспокойными, заходишь, сразу, в общем, кровать не заправленная. Подушка на полу валяется. Интересно. Чего военных медалей? Винтовка.
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Флаг США. Ор. Не-не, не спеши, не спеши, не спеши. Мы еще его историю не смотрим. Я просто ищу все, что можно.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Впечатление. Котейка. Тоже флаги штатов. Окей. И Финч. Ага, там адрес написан просто. Дневника не видно. Ой. Давай тогда дневник Сэма читать.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm? Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged.
Пропан. Винтовка.
What?
Сразу закрывает книгу. Забавно.
It's
Можно
too
я
early,
сфоткаю?
Dad.
Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it?
Один Финч, трейл мод.
I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Блин, музяка опять клевая.
You're right, Dad. It's
Только
starting to clear up.
необычный.
Still freezing, though.
Блин, если ты будешь делать неправильные снимки, то она просто типа будет этот.
Hold still while I take a picture of you.
Hey!
That's a keeper.
Забавно.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Dawn, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph?
Что более интересное?
Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were deer everywhere. I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time.
Капу надо фотоаппаратом.
Give me a minute to check the map.
Прикинь, удобными были старые фотоаппараты.
Let's see. eyes, Don. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of it.
Где она? Ой, сенса прям вообще что-то ужасное.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Don, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. And keep yourself squared up. Great shot, Don.
Класс. Выстрел из ружья с этим посинхронили.
I'm proud of you, Don. Always remember that, okay?
Вместе со вспышкой. А, вот он.
Sorry, Don. Just gotta reset the timer.
Таймер надо ложиться. У меня воспоминания о Резиденте. Этой камерой.
Hang on, kiddo. Just trying to get a shot of the two of us together.
Что не так? А типа его не было видно на кадре? Он хочет их двоих сфотографировать. А чё не так-то?
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally normal, Don. Just focus on the camera.
Надо было прям
Try not to
подойти
think
к
about
этому башке. Кольцо, кстати.
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Прям. Кстати, олень. Помню, что тут был выход. Пойдем.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Inch control. Так, открывай. Прикольно. Грегори. Стоун. Газ.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet
План эвакуации. Правила дома. По расписанию или по плану они пытались и таким образом защитить.
my mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died.
Давай смотреть по очереди.
At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Грегори. Нужно медицинскую штуку.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
Ух ты.
I wonder what he saw.
А, я лягушкой могу управлять. Ладно.
What his world was like.
Вот почему у него игровая
Reminded me
это.
so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination.
Игровая тематика.
Whatever it was he saw.
Ну и букву отламывать. Музыка какая-то классическая играет. Узнаю мелодию, но не знаю, как называется. Че похоже на то, что мне нужно что-то с краном, видимо, делать. Он интерактивный, что ли. Не очень я понимаю, как этой жабой управлять. Вот прикольно. И глазами следит, кстати, да. Как букву отломать-то? Он по ним прям прыгаю. Во, так получилось. Есть. О, за это ачивку дают, оказывается, лол.
I know how silly it sounds. But I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw.
Блин, как шутка-то.
There's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too.
Кошмар
Окей.
какой.
Love, Sam.
Реально жуть. С. Ему что, 13 было? 14, 13.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard,
before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
Фига, еще и мебель с собой забирает.
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Даун, Эдди, Милтон и Левис остались. Каска. Рука тут просто пустая, каска. Так, то есть он тоже военным был. Ну да, 68-16 он успел бы повоевать.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Это Индия. Дон Финч. Берется. Линия. Очень тяжело разобрать. А смысл? Был дневник, почему мне его не дали активировать, я не могу понять.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later.
Почему мне не дали дневник-то почитать? Изверги. Интересно, что с ним случилось. И с ней, что бы это ни было, не был. Вот же лежит. Доун Финч. Непонятно. Ладно, видимо, могу двигаться дальше. Миссин. Очень много листовок. Милтон Финч.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Милтон, Дэвис, Эдит.
And to see kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Эдит. Дэвис.
But it didn't last.
Эксперименты, 3 восклицательных знака. Интересно. Учите учиться. 7 путей создания классных. Донфи. Макбук какой-то.
Beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
По рисунками. Он из художников был. Нет. Давай в окно. Хорошо. И краска. И история Милтона. Могу понять, к чему корона и уста.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Зажать. Я понял, это вот эта вот книжка. Картина. Там было написано, что он исчез, то есть он
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
вроде как ушел в эту дверь, которую сам нарисовал, но на самом деле просто исчез, видимо.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
Да, ручка есть точно. Нельзя дорисовать, попробовать, видимо.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Lewis's room. Except Lewis.
Ему было сколько? 22 получил. Кальян? Плохо.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Психодел, марихуана, конопля.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Диплом об окончании старшей школы.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to
Так, что мне сделать, если что?
wander.
А, ё-моё.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth.
Давай, Егор, я прочитал, просто тут немножко
He'd feel his
сложный
way about.
геймплей.
Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more.
Лол, они еще и
I worried
перспективу
about him
меняют,
then.
что вы делаете?
Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend.
Забавно, что все больше становится, ну, все больше места занимает видение. Чем дальше, тем больше. И оно детальнее
On the edge of a
становится.
city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger.
Везде это рыба.
He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished.
Я могу эту рыбу взять, нет? Блин, жаль.
He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on.
Но реально все больше и больше.
New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
Я уже прям чувствую себя этим чуваком, я на автомате уже мышкой
In
двигаю.
Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen.
Блин, как же клево.
The queen was on her own quest for
Пусть у него будет прям очень добрая сказка.
radiant rainbows. He followed the sound of her
Давай ситару. Ситара клевая.
electric sitar.
А, блин. По этим штукам попадать.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it.
Класс.
In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Кренбери. Точно его ящичек. Приставка, кальян, конопля, психоделическая
Began to
картинка.
forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Финч. Это мне все немножко Dishonored'ом отдает. Пустой. Он делает вид, что что-то делает, а он ничего не делает уже. Так, наверное, ленту наверх, что ли? Давай.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him. His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do.
Тематика рыбы даже тут есть.
Bend down his head.
Да ладно.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Чуть забавно, да, что у него клавиатура даже с какими-то наворотами. Игровая вся херня.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
Ломаная лестница.
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed.
Кто остался-то? Это все из-за видеоигр. Да, так и есть. Наркотики там явно ни при чем. Но Дона я пропустил. Но я не понял, где его... Где его дневник. То, что я счел его дневником, оно не активировалось. Из игры выйти
But I
не хочу.
understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
Не стал с собой все забирать. Это не жалел.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner.
Едет. Один вроде запрятанного. Да, похоже на это.
But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Все равно интересно, что там.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
Видимо, есть подарок в этой библиотеке.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly.
Dawn Finch.
She got better for a while, and then she didn't.
А, ну ёж,
And then I was
настоящее
alone.
имя. Дон просто ее звали Эдди. Эдит, точнее. Как-то
Last
так.
Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you. And tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.
Она умерла при родах, я понял.
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Не, ну это прям крутяк, конечно. Титры классные. Прям. Кстати, про концовку можно было догадаться. Там же в дневнике сразу была сама Эдит нарисована. Она дорисовывала всех только когда узнавала, как они умрут. Эти три реально прям очень крутые. Наслаждайся и спасибо. Класс. А повторить историю выбираешь... Ага, за кого? Не очень понимаю, что эта подсветка показывает. Не, ну класс. Я думаю, что... Продолжить трансляцию. В целом, конец этой истории мы увидели, он клевый. Кто посмотрел, посмотрит и так далее, спасибо. А на этом я, наверное, выключаю. И даже если вы знаете, чем все закончится, я все-таки советовал бы, наверное, это пройти. Очень душевная штука.